Hello, everyone. Brother Al McClaney with this week's stewardship video. And as always, let's read the disclaimer. No advice should be seen as a recommendation or endorsement, as I am not a licensed financial advisor, and this is for educational purposes only. You want to do your own research. So, this video is called Set Free. And I was reading Luke 4 in the New Testament, and it was describing Jesus kind of opening his ministry, and he read from Isaiah 61 verses 1 through uh, verses 1 and 2. And so this was a prophecy from written by Isaiah, and this was 700 years before Christ, before his birth. So 700 years, this prophecy. And it said, "The Spirit of the sovereign Lord is upon me, for the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that captives will be released and prisoners will be freed. He has sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of the Lord's favor has come, and with it, the day of God's anger against their enemies." And so Jesus went into the synagogue, and in Luke 4, verses 17 through 21, the scroll of Isaiah, the prophet, was handed to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where this was written: "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and that the time of the Lord's favor has come." He rolled up the scroll, handed it back to the attendant, and sat down. All eyes in the synagogue looked at him intently. Then he began to speak to them. "The scripture you've just heard has been fulfilled this very day." Now, that was, theologians estimate to be between 26 and 27 AD when he read that. And me and Dr. Webb were talking about this at the men's breakfast. And I was telling what a remarkable scripture it is, because I've always read that part and I've utilized it when people will ask, say to me, "Hey, Al, I don't know what my purpose is according to the Lord." And I would say, take a look at Luke 4, verses 17 through 21. Do those things until you feel that God has clarified and you discover what your purpose. Because I believe everyone has a purpose. And I know for me, my purpose is through freedom, through biblical stewardship, and, you know, teaching others, the 2,000 scriptures that are related to money and possessions that God has provided us in his word. And so that would be part of, helping the blind to see from a, not just, I'm not talking from a physical standpoint, but for those who, darkness is on their finances, or on, they've been thinking of themselves as owners, right? Bring good news to the poor, those who are saddled with uh, credit card debt. So, all those, that the captives will be released. A lot of people are under strain and financial anxiety when it comes. So, out of that came a specific purpose I feel that God had put on my life. So, you read this and you would think, man, well, this is good news. The Lord has just said that, we're going to be set free. And if you read on a couple of verses later, in the beginning, they were astonished, they said, by his speech, and they were kind of overjoyed. But then you read a little bit further and he starts to tell them about rejection. And remember, he's talking to the Israelites, the Jewish people, and they felt, hey, we're God's chosen people, which they were. Well, we're the number one draft pick. The Messiah is for us. But he started to tell them that, hey, if you reject the message and the way and my principles, then it's going to go to other nations. And then this is, uh, you know, they started to kind of rumble. But I also related this freedom to a powerful psalm that I had been talking about last week. Psalms 103, 2 through 5. It says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget none of his benefits, who pardons all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases, who redeems your life from the pit, who crowns you with loving kindness and compassion, who satisfies your years with good things so that your youth is renewed like the eagle. Again, this is good news. This is freedom that the Lord has said comes through to me. So we got Luke 4, he's talking about freedom, and here's Psalm that's 103 that's talking about freedom. And but I told you later on, they became angry. In fact, here's the response after just a couple of verses under that. It says, Luke 4, verses 28 through 30. When they heard this is after he said to them, hey, I'm bringing you freedom, deliverance, but if you don't accept it, in other words, do things the way I'm saying they would be doing and come in alignment with the Father, then it's just going to go to other nations. So when they heard this, the people in the synagogue were furious. Jumping up, they mobbed him and forced him to the edge of the hill on which the town was built. They intended to push him over the cliff. In other words, they were going to kill him. But he passed right through the crowd and went on his way because we know that was not how the prophecy said he would die. So his time was not then. So I thought about this like, how could they do this? This man just said, hey, I'm bringing you freedom. And what it was, it didn't come the way they wanted it to come because they were thinking warrior king, they're under the rule of the Romans. Here's the person who's going to deliver us militarily, and let alone saying, hey, if we don't do it your way, it's going to some other country. That's, we're the chosen people. And I was like, how could they do this? And God said, whoa, whoa, Al, hold up before you get a little bit prideful about this and start having a critical spirit. How many times, and this is what me and Dr. Well talked about on Saturday, how many times have you shook your fist at the Lord? Maybe not literally, but not wanting to do things his way and actually becoming, angered, frustrated, and insisting on, I want to do things my way when the word clearly says this is the way to go, and also deciding because it's a decision not to trust him. And I mean, and let that set in. So I'm looking at the Lord has offered me freedom, but oftentimes I want to go my own way. I want to be God, little g, um, and decide the direction. I want the deliverance. I want him to fix things, but I want him to do it my way and on my timeline. So, I mean, same thing. I don't literally want to kill him, but the reaction is the same. It's still rebellion. It's still saying that I want to do things my way, even though you're offering deliverance, Lord, but I want to be delivered the way I want to deliver it. And what do you mean it's going to go to someone else? And then I become, angry or jealous or fixated on someone else who does it that way, or they did follow and maybe I didn't see the way they did it, but they have success. So same thing. So this is the lesson for me is what a powerful scripture when it comes to how do we accept the deliverance that he's offering. So let that kind of sink in. Let's go over, take a look at the earnings this week. I want to kind of highlight Palantir. Palantir is going to be reporting at the close on Monday. Now we don't have the star power of the companies that we had last week, which was like wow. But this is nothing to sleep on because Palantir is a huge name that's reporting. Shopify, PayPal, AMD, those are some big names. Pfizer, Walt Disney is reporting. IONQ is not huge, but it's in the quantum computing space. And that's going to also drive its core weave, which is quantum computing. We've got Uber, CVS, McDonald's, Wendy's. So while these are not as large or the number of companies, there's still going to be movement based on the qualities, if you will. Novo Nordisk, that's in the era of the GLP, the drug. Beyond Meat, for a while, that was a favorite during COVID. It's going to be reporting. So there are some Coinbase. We're going to get a look at um, you know, cryptocurrency in that area because that's the largest exchange, I believe. And then a firm that's a buy now, pay later company. So there are quite a few in here. One you may have not have heard of, Energy Transfer. I think they're a pipeline. So we've got some good companies, quality companies, large companies that are reporting, not again, not as huge as what we had last week, but still these that will impact uh, the market. So one of the things that we talked about, and then Norwegian. All right. So we look at a cruise industry. Well, Palantir. Um, is a company that's in the area, and you might it's been in the news a lot because big military contracts. They develop data integration, analytics, and AI. So this is definitely an AI play and a technology play, and it's used by governments, militaries, large enterprise. Its core mission is to help humans make better decisions by combining real world data, AI models, and interactive analysis too. So this is squarely in that AI space. Um, it's a huge company. Last I looked on Friday, it was trading at $137.46. So this would be a a great AI play, but that may be a stock that's a little out of your price range. Here's some similar companies. This one here, the Alteryx, it's no longer traded publicly. They took it private, but these are all other companies that do similar things. You can take a picture of this. Maybe that's an area you may want to look into. Of course, not a recommendation. Do your own research, but I will tell you these companies range in price, with Palantir actually being the lowest price, $137.46, all the way up to Northrop Grumman, which is you're getting a defense stock, which, you know, which what's going on in Iran, and you're also getting some AI and technology in that. But that is $568.14 a share. All these again, you can do stock slices, do Fidelity, do Charles Schwab. You can do those different things, but you may also want to look at maybe a different play. Maybe you want to look at something maybe in energy, because all of these companies have this thing also in common. A lot of them use a lot of data centers, and data centers need power consumption. Again, this is not a recommendation, just something to spur you to do your own research, something you look into. This BEP is Brookfield Renewable Partners. They're really big in the space of renewable energy, right? And I know you're saying, hey, Trump administration is not big into this. They want, fossil fuels and oil, stuff like that. But the data center consumption uh, thirst is so huge. It doesn't matter, because just from the idea of the need, right? You still can't ignore it. So, and from what I've researched, they don't rely on any type of incentives. So, and they're kind of reasonably priced, $33.35. The other thing you may look at is, what's their peer or competitors. And here's a slide that gives some, here. And I've never heard of this company, AES, and then Northland Power. Do your own research, but you can see they're even less priced. Um, than the Brookfield. And NEE, I heard of this, Nextra Energy. Now it's trading at $96. So maybe you think, hey, Brookfield could maybe triple its price and it'll eventually get there. That doesn't necessarily mean that will happen, but that's an idea and a way of playing that. It may be something that's more palatable for your budget. So with that, let's close out QQQ. We are clearly out of this box. I probably need to get rid of it. This is where we're in that range for months. We are clearly back on a bull run, meaning the market's going up. We'll see if next week, with some of these earnings being reported, if it continues that way. But QQQ technology, it's a lot of technology exposure. It's on the run. And here's S&P 500, same thing. Not as pronounced, not as steep, but still clearly back on a bull run. And some of the things here you can see, this is what we call volatility, and the volatility is coming down. So you're not having a lot of um, you know up and down whipsaws in the market. Same thing here. Volatility, that's what this measures, is coming down. So that means it's going to stay that way. But right now, these are going opposite directions, which means typically, that's a bull. How long will it last? Don't know. Only the Lord knows. All right. So with that, that's this week's stewardship video. Um, that teaching really hit me about, here's the good news, here's deliverance, and of course, always the way to go is the way the Lord sees it. But has my spirit been rebellious? Have I been arrogant? Have I been entitled? Have I been um, prideful and wanting to do things my way? The answer is yes. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. This has been this week's stewardship video. As always, remember Jesus is Lord, therefore He's the owner, but we play the important role of being His faithful servant and steward, which means we do things His way. And this is May, so my pastor, Denny White Davis, will start to celebrate 35 years uh, in his pastoral uh, anniversary at St. John. So 35 years. Happy anniversary, Pastor Denny White Davis. We'll see you next week with this week's stewardship video. Bye.